Did we identify this as a problem before we ran into it?
I remember this is part of the figuring it out.
I feel like this is something where I would have told you, don't worry about it. And then like
Until I needed to worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ASP.NET Web Forms. Part of all of this is understanding the life cycle of an application, right? So ASP.NET Web Forms has one. So it goes like page load, then click events, then load events, then pre-render, then rendering, whatever it is. Angular, same thing, right? You got your initialization, then you got your processing of like button clicks, whatever it is, and then you get to the end of like the view init or something like that. So they both have different kind of life cycles and what they do. But in terms of web forms, the way that you build it, right, is you build your .aspx pages, and then you can build your controls. And then as you click a button, it posts back, and then it's going to hide or show content based on that. And that uses a system called view state. And view state is another thing that gets jammed into cookies.
Think of view state, because most people probably don't know what it is. Think of view state as you take all the information on a form and you serialize it into a illegible blob of nonsense, and you tuck it in a hidden form element, and that gets sent up to the server. The server deserializes it,
modifies it,
puts it in a bunch of variables that do make sense. Then you can modify it there, and then when the server sends a response back down to the browser, it reverses that process, garbles it back up, and
technically the server is doing all this. Like it's re-rendering the HTML, and then it's sending that back down. But for the most part, yeah, the front end is now determining what should or should not show.
It's a nightmare. And
it is a.
I hate view state.
So, how do you get that to work in Angular? Because Angular is the JavaScript platform.
Okay, well, hold on. Wait, time out. So help my brain understand this. So why do we care about view state with Angular? Because Angular is its own thing.
Right. So here's the challenge that we had, because we're working in web forms, right? We might go through a wizard or something like that were in web forms, and now we want to switch to an Angular implementation for like a page,
and then go back.
And we got to go back to the web forms one.
And because view state holds on to the state of the page, we have to tuck that away somewhere temporarily.
Yeah. It sucks.
Again, another great reason to prototype. Something that I don't think we would have even considered. Like, until did we identify this as a problem before we ran into it?
I remember my 24 iterations. This is part of the figuring it out.
I feel like this is something where I would have told you, don't worry about it, and then like
until I needed to worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it became a problem. Here's the thing. I know it was part of one of the initial lists, but like there was like 10 different initial lists. So it's like it's one of the iterate. It wasn't probably on the very first one, but it definitely wasn't on the last one.
Yeah, man, it's ridiculous how many problems we had to solve to do this.
Right. So, and this is kind of going back to the point of what do you prototype, right? And this is kind of the right. And this is a good example of, okay, like you have to distill it to the fundamental problem. What are you trying to do? You're trying to navigate from web forms to Angular and then back to web forms
without losing state,
without losing data.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay, so
yeah, this is kind of why it took a long time.
Yeah. So tell me, how did we solve this problem? Because I stopped coding at this point, so I genuinely to this day don't know how you solved this problem.
Yeah. So Angular doesn't know, and so the way, as I mentioned earlier, is the view state operates on postbacks. So you have to post the data to the next page.
Postback meaning a trip to the server.
Trip to the server.
A full trip, not just like a
partial trip. Yeah. So when we have a button, we have to redirect that button to post all the data to the Angular page. And Angular can't decode the posts. So what we ended up having to do is we had to build Angular on top of MVC.
Oh, introducing a new technology into the mix.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like this is, I don't know how much of this you actually remember, or just is like all like discovery to you right now. Like, oh, this is all clicking now.
I probably should have known all this. I feel like at this point I was just like, get it done. Yeah. I don't care how you solve it. Just get it done. And yeah.
What we ended up doing is we just created the one. Well, we didn't even create the one page. It comes with it because it's MVC, the layout page. That became our master page. That was what was housing the Angular. And because we had to do that, we were able to interpret, again, if we just got rid of the old code, we don't need this. But
I'm learning so much today.
but because we were able to, because the server was able to process it, we were able to capture all the stuff and then shove it into another temporary location for our Angular application to hold on to it until we say, okay, now we got to go back to the web forms.
I know at the time, and maybe this wasn't true, but I feel like at the time when you made an Angular app, it had an MVC app that kind of came along with it.
It did, yes.
It didn't really do much, but it like housed that static page. That's not a thing anymore. You don't need, like, when you make a new Angular application,
I think they give you the option.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So we found a use for this Angular app.
We found a really bastardized use to
this.
We
can post to it. It can hold data.
Well, it couldn't hold it, right? We had to process that view state.
What do you mean process?
So we had to process all the cookies and all the data that got posted back to us. And we had to decipher which things we did or did not care about.
Wait, we don't just hold on to all of it. We pull bits of it out.
Well, so there's a couple things that are relevant, and one of them is the refer URI, like where did it come from, so that we can go back to that original state.
Oh yeah.
And so like for the most part, we can take it and rip it, but there's a few things that we just really needed to know, so those are kept a little bit safe. Like
interesting. Did we have to like is view state's not encrypted, right? It's just like
no, it's
encoded.
just blob. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though it's a separate app, we could easily like decode it, read it.
Yeah.
We use the view state to basically figure out where to send them back to.
To restore state of where we were, right?
But it also identifies the route that you came from.
That's part of the data that came through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.